Good morning! So, Moxie, an old term used to describe someone with spirit, courage, and strength. It's also the brand name for a carbonated drink created in 1876 and was one of the first mass-produced drinks in the United States. It apparently tastes like root beer, but with a bitter aftertaste. But then we jump to 2007 to a book called Moxie, written by Jennifer Matthew. The book is about a girl named Vivian Carter who is tired of the poor treatment of the girls in her high school, so she anonymously starts a club to fight back against misogyny and bring in women empowerment back to her school. By the way, this isn't going to be another book to film adaptation review. I have too much to say about the film alone, and editor isn't willing to read the book, for several reasons. I'm personally not a fan of feminist stories, mostly because many of them are so hateful, and I don't agree with the message putting down men just for being men as a way to uplift women. I'm sorry, but it just doesn't work like that. Also, the last review almost destroyed my throat, so I don't want to do another reading right now. Thanks again for that, editor, and also letting me talk about this film too. Just remember not to go political in this, please. Don't worry, I won't. Sorry for the long intro. Let's talk about the film now.
Can you take a picture of yourself holding a first day of school sign?
No, Mom, I'm in 11th grade. I'm not doing that.
Okay, you don't have to do the sign, just take a picture of yourself.
Soon after the book was released, screenplay writer Tamara Chesna liked the story so much that she had it made into a movie. The film was made by Paper Kite Productions, distributed by Netflix, and directed by Amy Poehler, who also played the mother of the main character, and the screenplay written by Tamara Chesna and Dylan Meyer. The film came out March 3rd, 2021, and it was supposedly made on a $4 million budget, but I can't find any confirmation how true that claim is. Also, the movie was never released in theaters, so no box office. And I can't find anything on view numbers since Netflix doesn't reveal data like that to the public. At least, not on every project apparently. I even tried to look up video reviews a week after the film was released, but didn't find any. There might be a couple now, but I'm not gonna look until after this review is done, just so that my opinion stays mine and isn't influenced by others. As for the film's reception, Rotten Tomato critics and audiences gave the film a high score, and the comments for the trailer on YouTube enjoyed it a lot. So this film was well liked by nearly everyone who saw it. But the more critical ones felt that the story was lacking, and it didn't deliver the message the way the movie wanted to. Actually, on the wiki for the book, a review from Kirkus Reviews has pointed out that the film has the same problems as the book. So I think it's safe to say that there's a high probability that not much has changed from book to film. And that's about it for the history. I had a hard time finding much because it was a straight-to-streaming film, but the little I did get helped me understand a bit of what to expect in this movie.
This entire school's got Moxie, am I right? Let me hear it!
Moxie? What is she, like 100 years old?
Vivian Carter, played by Haley Robinson, is a sophomore in high school that is practically ruled by the football captain Mitchell, played by Patrick Schwarzenegger. On the first day of the new year, Vivian sees transfer student Lucy, played by Alicia Pascual-Penna, stand her ground against Mitchell. But when Vivian tries to give the new student advice on how to avoid Mitchell, Lucy refuses the advice and lets Vivian know how messed up the school is, and that she has no plans of keeping her head down.
You know that annoying can be more than just annoying, right? Like, it can be code for worse stuff.
If you keep your head down, I'll move on and bother somebody else.
Thanks for the advice. But I'm gonna keep my head up. High.
After the yearly rankings where all the boys vote on different sexes and rude titles for the girls in the school, Lucy tried to report the harassment to Principal Shelley, played by Marcia Gay Harden. But when she refused to do anything, Vivian decides that she is going to do what her mother did when she was in high school by starting a women empowerment club called Moxie. The only difference is, Vivian started it anonymously.
We want the who, what, where, and why.
I found it in the bathroom.
Yeah, I saw someone reading it in Trig.
So, no one knows what Moxie wants or what their plan is? My girl needs a plan. She does not join freaky cults.
At first, the things with their club were going well, as more and more girls were standing up for themselves against Mitchell and Principal Shelley. But things started going downhill as Mitchell would find ways to weaken the club's reputation, and Principal Shelley trying her best to hunt down the person who started the club.
People have defaced school property, and someone is going to get suspended for it.
It wasn't until Vivian's best friend Claudia, played by Lauren Tsai, was suspended for not revealing who started the club that Vivian broke down and regretted what she did.
I mean, I only started Moxie because you made me believe I was, like, strong or something, but I'm not that kind of person. And none of it is working, and no one is helping me, and I am all alone in this.
A few days later, Vivian finds a letter addressed to the Moxie girl asking her for help.
Last year I was raped
I wanted to come forward, but I didn't want anyone to know it was me. You get things done and no one knows who you are. Can you help me?
Pissed for the poor girl, Vivian planned a walkout for everyone at her school, and during the walkout, Vivian revealed that she was the one who started the club.
And you know what? If you're gonna expel somebody, expel me, okay? It's me. I started Moxie. I am Moxie.
After her confession, the girl who wrote the letter revealed herself. The head of the cheerleading squad, Emma, played by Josephine Lamford. And she tells everyone that her assaulter was Mitchell and that she was too scared to talk about it before, but now she is not thanks to Vivian Carter.
I'm the one who reached out for help because it felt like Moxie was the only one who was listening.
After that, Principal Shelley calls for Mitchell, Claudia is allowed to come back to school, and Vivian gets back together with her boyfriend Seth, played by Nico Hirage. Oh yeah, there's a teenage romance subplot happening as well, and as cute as it was, it did get in the way of the main plot.
What is that?
It's my heart. You want it?
And that's basically the film. I tried to get the summary short this time around because I'll be going into a lot of detail in my criticisms. And I do mean a lot.
Moxie is now officially a school club and gets access to elite privileges such as hanging stuff on walls. We might just also have to learn how to play chess.
Let's start by talking about the main character herself, Vivian Carter.
This is the first day. I mean, they haven't even had time to look at us yet.
She is a shy teen just trying to do what she can to make her school life better for her and her classmates, while at the same time trying not to bring too much attention to herself. Totally fair, but when things start going wrong, she started acting in a way that I don't think worked great for the story. Like the dinner scene with her, Seth, her mother, and her mother's boyfriend.
Okay, what, you want me to calm down? You want me to be nice like you and make sure everybody's comfortable? Be your cute little girlfriend with a little ponytail? Oh, forget hearts and stars on my hand. Why don't I just write your name on my arm and tell everybody that I'm your property or something?
Her blowing up at the guys for no reason would have been fine if the conversation with her mother afterwards played out better. Or if we got a different conversation that took place after the victim's letter, where Vivian's mother finally sat down and talked about her past and the mistakes she made while trying to do good for her peers. Maybe add a little story of how Vivian's mother knew a girl who was attacked, but nothing was done about it to the point that the girl made a permanent choice to end it all. Then that could be Vivian's inspiration to paint the school's front doors and organize the walkout. Better yet, just cut the dinner scene altogether and just have Vivian and her mom talk about what happened and have Vivian blow up at her mother the same way as what she did at the dinner table, but with altered dialogue to better focus on the club and Vivian's actions towards her friends.
Why isn't Dad spending Christmas with me, Mom?
Outside of those suggestions, I think Vivian's character is okay, but could have been a lot better if her friends and her stories were also changed. But before we talk about them, let's talk about the antagonist.
Wow, what a treat. Mr. Wilson's here.
Shoot, I'm sorry. I was helping this new freshman girl find her way to class, and she was deeply lost.
Well, chivalry might not be dead, but you will be if you're late to my class again. Sit down.
I have very few problems with Mitchell as a character. He is scummy and a big bully, but also smart enough to not do anything outrageous unless he knows he'll get away with it. But I don't think it'll hurt the film at all if he was given another scene or two. Maybe have one where he crashes a Moxie meeting to try to find out who the Moxie girl is for Principal Shelley. Or he goes after Lucy one more time to get her to confess in being the one to start the club.
Just tell me you wrote it, and I'll give it back to you. Okay? I'm not even mad. I actually think it's kind of funny. But I admit it.
Or maybe he tracks down Claudia after she makes the club official and tries to get her to confess to the identity of the Moxie girl while also trying to scare her into disbanding the club. This way, he becomes a more active threat against the girls in the club, while also keeping his character the right level of jerkiness to keep the story entertaining and realistic.
What are you doing?
Well, haven't you heard? I'm the winning asshole.
Next character to talk about is Lucy.
Thanks for the advice. But I'm gonna keep my head up.
There are only a couple scenes that make Lucy a likable character. The one I just showed you, and another one she's helping plan out Kira's scholarship run.
Yes, and when you win this thing, and you will win it, it's gonna prove that we're done with that shit, that show is canceled. Yeah. It's much bigger than Kira. It's for girls everywhere.
Her first scene and many scenes thereafter, however, made her look like a complete brat who doesn't care about anything other than her being right and causing trouble for those around her under the guise of fighting back misogyny. To prove my point, let's break down this scene.
How are women portrayed?
Well, I think the real question is, why are we still reading this book? It's written by some rich white guy, about some rich white guy. And I guess we're supposed to feel bad for him
because he's obsessed with the only girl he can have. I mean, if the point is to learn about the American dream, we should be reading about immigrants, or the working class, or black mothers, or at least someone who doesn't already have a mansion.
First off, F. Scott Fitzgerald was born in a middle-class family. He attended Princeton University, only to drop out to join the army for World War I. Then later met his rich wife, who initially rejected him because of his lack of financial prospect, but did eventually marry him after his first successful book, The Side of Paradise. He then continued writing to get more popular over the years until he stopped after finishing Tender is the Night, because his wife was admitted into a mental hospital for schizophrenia while he was working on said book. Depressed, he moved to Hollywood, where he struggled as a screenwriter and fell into alcoholism. Unfortunately, when he started getting his life back together and became sober, he died of a heart attack in his 40s. Now, would I say that the author is privileged? Yeah, I would say that he is due to his high level of education, despite dropping out to join the military, and marrying rich after becoming popular for his writing. But saying that he only got popular and rich because of his privilege undermines his struggles and successes in his writing career. So, I don't know what Lucy meant by calling Scott a rich guy when he did earn his fame through his books and was only rich for a short time of his life. Also, many people both during and before Scott's time who became famous writers were only able to do so because they had the money and time to write and get their books published. Those who were poor or uneducated didn't have time or money to write for a living, and if they did write, they barely had the free time to do it and even less time to get their work published. And when it was published, it was unlikely that their stories ever got popular enough to be remembered by very many people. That's just how the world worked for a long time, unfortunately. So, only books from rich people are usually the only ones to still be read to this day and land on required reading lists for a lot of schools. And if Lucy has a problem with those books being required reading, then she should bring it up to her school district and not to the poor teacher who is barely paid to deal with her bullcrap. As for the book itself, I've never read it, so I can't say much outside of the book's summary and the few reviews I have seen talking about it. And the way that other people talk about the book is very different from how Lucy describes it. From what I can tell, the main characters outside of the protagonist himself are written to be terrible people that don't deserve anybody's sympathy. But Lucy made it sound like the author wanted us to feel bad for Jake Gatsby, the richest man in the book, for not getting the girl. And the dialogue in the scene made Lucy look like a spoiled brat attacking the teacher Mr. Davies, played by Ike Barinholtz, for doing his job. And when Mitchell started interrupting her, she did nothing to put him in his place.
I thought it was a great book.
Hey, I was talking.
Yeah, I know, but The Great Gatsby is a classic. Just because other books are good doesn't mean that this is less good.
I didn't say the book wasn't good. I just wish that we would
Okay,
broaden
you're not listening to me. People have read and have loved The Great Gatsby forever. I mean, there must be something inside this book that makes it so that we read it each and every year at our own school.
Spoken like a true Nick Carraway.
So, attacking the teacher for doing his job is okay, but not another student who is being a complete jerk? See what I mean by Lucy not being likable? A better way for the dialogue to play out would be for Mr. Davies to ask Lucy how she feels about the book as a whole, and Lucy can answer she thinks the book was okay, but there are other books that portray the same themes of the American dream much better. She could even name drop titles of books that share stories with the same themes, but are more inspirational to someone like her, and are written by people who are in a poor or underappreciated demographic than Scott Fitzgerald was. Then after name dropping those books, Lucy can ask why they're still reading Great Gatsby instead of these other books. And before the teacher can say anything, Mitchell will interrupt and say that the school must think there is something in this book that they need to read, and that's why it's required reading. Then Lucy can challenge him by asking him what that thing would be. Mitchell will try to think of something, only for Lucy to argue back, but then Mr. Davies will interrupt so that he can continue his lesson. That way, Mitchell's pride would be damaged due to Lucy basically calling him dumb, which would in turn give him a stronger reason to harass Lucy, while also making Lucy a little bit more tolerable for audiences. Heck, maybe even more likable.
Thanks for giving me this. I really needed a sign from the universe that there were actual humans here.
Also, a cool thing to do with Lucy's character for the rest of the movie would be to have her be a good influence on Vivian in the beginning, then over time, as the Moxie Club gains some popularity, Lucy will grow arrogant and try to force Vivian to agree with everything she says, even when Vivian doesn't agree. Then, when Claudia is suspended and Lucy doesn't take it seriously, and maybe she even starts talking bad about Claudia, Vivian will take this chance to finally stand up against Lucy to defend her friend's actions, and remind Lucy the good that Claudia brought to the club by making it official. Something that Lucy didn't think to do despite being more involved in the club than Claudia was. Basically, this scene, but longer and more in depth.
Claudia got suspended from Moxie. Which
What do you mean?
Yeah, it's pretty awesome. She took one for the team.
That's not awesome.
She's gonna be fine. She'll write about it on some college application and people will freak. She'll be fine.
Okay, don't tell me about Claudia, okay? She's been my best friend my whole life, and you only just got here.
Okay, wow.
Then, when Lucy sees Claudia again, she'll apologize for the things she said and maybe ask if she can get a second chance to be a better friend to her. And speaking of Claudia, let's talk about her next.
Do you Mr. Davies for English?
Uh-huh.
Beware. He calls on anyone who sits in the front row.
What would I do without you?
I guess we'll never find out.
Claudia is what a lot of people are like when it comes to certain high-stakes situations. She would also like the school environment to be better, but she doesn't like how the club or her friends are doing things. Mostly because she is very shy, more so than Vivian, and has strict parents who don't want her causing trouble at school and risk not being able to get into a good college.
Do you know what my mom had to sacrifice to get to this country? What she had to do to make it so that I could go to college? I am under an insane amount of pressure. And I don't have the freedom to take the risks that you do.
Claudia, I'm sorry.
And that's all that the film showed, and it would have been nice if she had more scenes. For example, after Claudia makes the club official, we see her having a discussion with Vivian and the other girls about what privileges they now have as an official school club, like getting a dedicated classroom to hold their meetings, getting a teacher moderator, and knowing what all the rules are that will protect them from getting disbanded by Principal Shelley. She still doesn't participate in many of the activities, but she can suggest things to the club that doesn't involve breaking too many rules, and the rules that are broken, they can get around being punished for due to a loophole in the rules that only Claudia would know about. Also, after Mitchell's speech, Claudia would be the only one to take it seriously, but because of how popular the club is, either Vivian or Lucy will tell her not to worry about it since they believe that they will win no matter what. Only to then lose anyway.
Mitchell Wilson.
Then we get to Claudia being suspended, Lucy making a comment about Claudia being fine, and that this is what she can do for the club since she barely does anything anyway, despite that being untrue, and Vivian telling Lucy how full of crap she is for putting down Claudia's efforts before running off to see if her friend is truly okay.
My mom would literally prefer that I die of contracting bacterial meningitis and get suspended from school. Disease is at least an honorable death.
Then, at the end of the movie, we see apologies and promises exchanged between Claudia and Lucy, and Vivian is happy that she did a good thing for both her friends. I'd say that's a much better ending than what we got in the movie. Moving on to two characters this time, Kiara and Amaya, played by Sydney Park and Angelica Washington.
If pep rallies were for teams who actually won games, they would be doing soccer cheers up in here. Yeah, and maybe the bake sale could buy us new uniforms. They would be baking some cookies and cakes and pies for us.
I have no problems with Kiara's character at all. She was happy being the captain of her school's soccer team, even though she would have liked more school recognition, and when she was initially voted for the scholarship, she was against it until she later agreed to it, due to the others telling her how much she truly deserved it.
What did you just do?
Do you like money? Cause I'm finna get you some.
Shut up and secure the bag. I can handle that, sis.
She was great, and her storyline was also great, but that's only because her story was more fleshed out compared to the others. And I'll talk about those other storylines later. The only criticism I have for Kiara is that I wish we got a montage scene of the boys' football team failing and the girls' soccer team succeeding in their respective games.
Hey, how'd it go?
Girl, it was great. We won, as always.
The crowd of 15 moms went wild.
Then there's Kiara's best friend, Amaya. Holy crap, this girl is annoying!
I tripped Bradley in his dumbass pirate costume. That's feminism right there. And I do not feel bad about it.
She's obnoxious, she's destructive, and I hate her. It's not even a fun hate like Mitchell's character who was made to be hated on. What was her reasoning for hurting the class president anyway? The incident happened before Mitchell's speech, so it wasn't out of frustration that he let Mitchell talk. The president himself also never said anything bad about the club, so it wasn't an attack for that. What would have been better is to have her enter the class president after he said something rude about Kiara during morning announcements, in reference to her running for the athletic scholarship, or losing it depending on when the broadcasting happens. Then, after the club finds out that Amaya did that, Kiara gets upset because now the club's reputation takes a hit, and now no one wants to support a club that condones violence against others. After that realization, Amaya will then apologize to the club and her friends for hurting them, then she'll go and apologize to the class president for breaking his arm. Then we can end the scene with the class president also apologizing to Kiara for saying that rude comment and promising to make it up to her in some way.
Just a quick reminder though, guys, my wrist is still in the process of healing. So if you could please take it easy on the high fives.
Moving on to the next character, Caitlin, played by Sabrina Heskett.
Listen to this. Hey, Moxie girls, have you had enough of these ridiculous sexist dress code checks? Literally me.
Unfortunately, Caitlin's story here does happen a lot in real life, but I have a couple problems with this scene besides that. One is Principal Shelley coming in out of nowhere to dress code Caitlin, and the other is that no one says if tank tops are against the dress code or not.
Please give me a break and just cover up so that we can all get back to learning.
I don't have anything to cover up with.
I know the point in this scene is that Caitlin is in trouble because she is busty and that is unfortunately out of her control, but a more realistic situation, both her and the other girl would be dress coded if tank tops were against the dress code. But if tank tops weren't against the dress code, Caitlin should have said so, only for Principal Shelley to still insist on dress coding her anyway because of her body. This scene would have been a whole lot better if it happened out in the hallway where there is still an audience, but Shelley has a better reason for being there. Rather than waiting for her to get to class, then interrupt class to talk to Caitlin in front of everyone, when normally the student would be taken out into the hallway to be talked to. Then someone, either by Caitlin or somebody else, will mention to Principal Shelley that spaghetti straps aren't against the dress code, but she still insists Caitlin cover up because she happens to be busty, unlike the other girl who is wearing something similar but is flat. Then we move to the scene of all the girls in the school wearing tank tops in protest, and we see Principal Shelley go back into her office after witnessing the sea of exposed shoulders. Then, when the students are in their classrooms, Shelley will make an announcement over the intercoms that if she sees any tank tops tomorrow, the students wearing them will get dress coded and that teachers will help her enforce that rule. Mr. Davies will then try to tell the girls that although he agrees what Shelley is asking for is dumb, he feels everyone should still follow the rules. Then Caitlin will stand up and say her piece about how unfair it was when she got dress coded for her body being the way that it is. And it's still unfair that the dress code is skewed towards the girls and not equal to the boys.
This dress code thing may seem like whatever to you. It may seem like whatever to all of you. But I'd say it's another way to control women. And if you're doing nothing, then you're part of the problem. So where do you stand with these tank tops, huh?
Then Mr. Davies will take back his words and try to continue his lesson. This way, Caitlin's message is better received by the audience and also establishes the Moxie Club as a force of good for the girls. As for Caitlin's character in general, she's fine. I like her confidence, and if her storyline was improved just a bit, she would be on the same level of greatness as Kiara. Moving on to the love interest in the film, Seth.
Oh, you're not seeing it? You're like 3 inches this summer.
Wow.
Kinda hurts though, growing pains.
Seth is amazing, but the film did very little with his character outside of being Vivian's supportive boyfriend who somewhat takes her abuse.
Oh, forget hearts and stars on my hand. Why don't I just write your name on my arm and tell everybody that I'm your property or something?
What would have been better is to cut the funeral home scene and move this piece of dialogue to a scene of him helping Vivian with her printouts.
Someday everyone's gonna know it. But I kinda like being the only one that knows right now.
And when the club becomes official, he asks Vivian if he can join, and she says she'll ask the others if he could. But Lucy will say that he can't join because he's a guy who doesn't understand what the girls are going through. Then we have a conversation where Vivian repeats everything that Lucy says to Seth, and Seth says that he is aware of what the girls are going through because he grew up with Mitchell and has seen the mean things he has done, and after some time of learning of what Mitchell does and says is wrong, he stopped being friends with him.
Look, I know you're friends with Mitchell.
Yeah, I'm not friends with him. I've just known him since 2nd grade is all.
After that, Seth can add that he also seen Mitchell bully other boys before, and it would be nice if the club can also give those guys some inspiration to stand up for themselves as well. But he understands that if the club isn't comfortable with him, he'll just be a supporter rather than a member. Which is what Vivian will be fine with at first, but over time decides that he should be a member of the club because helping the bullied guys can help improve the school environment as a whole. Then maybe we get a scene where Vivian asks her mother if she has ever helped out a guy before, and she answers if she had or not. So yeah, I wish he was better utilized outside of being the main love interest, but at least he was given some proper attention, unlike these two poor girls. Let's start with CJ, played by Josie Toda.
Okay, well, if it was me, you all would know. There would be a giant parade.
My first time watching the film, I got confused on what CJ's name was. She mentioned in the film that her teachers never call her by her chosen name, but then later we see a teacher call her CJ, so for a while I thought CJ wasn't her chosen name.
Okay, CJ, you are auditioning for the role of Audrey.
But But then I watched the film again and figured out that her chosen name is CJ, and we just had a scene of a teacher saying her correct name for some reason. Also, her storyline with the musical was pretty dumb. Wait, give me a minute to clarify. CJ being a trans girl wanting to play a female lead isn't what is dumb. It's that the film did nothing with it. We hear that she wants to play the part of the lead, then we see her audition, and then nothing. We don't know if she got the part or not, or if the club helped her at all in any way. It would have been great if we got more attention on it like we had on the athletic scholarship. But because the storyline was just touched on and not explored in any way, made me feel like CJ was just a checkbox character. A character with a certain trait not seen in many films that is only included because of that trait and not because of the character's personality or contribution to the story. Kinda like how some films are marketed to feature a gay character or gay romance, but the on-screen representation was only present for less than 3 seconds of screen time. Granted, CJ's treatment in the film wasn't as bad as what the film did with Meg, played by Emily Hopper.
Oh, great. No, please, block the sidewalk to admire her nails. Hi. There we go. That wasn't so hard, was it?
The film introduced Meg like she was going to have a bigger part in the story than she actually got. Would have been nice to have a storyline where Meg asks the club for help to improve the school's handicap accessibility by either implementing it themselves or writing a letter together to explain the situation to the school board. Or maybe something with the marching band? I don't know. Meg was lucky to just have a few lines in the movie. It would have been great to have her say something during the walkout scene instead of the random girl who came out of nowhere to talk about her hair.
My hair is not a wig, it's not nappy, it's thick, curly, and it's who I am. And no, you cannot touch it.
Just another checkbox character to make the main characters look good for being friendly to her and nothing else. Okay, I think it's safe to say that I'm one of the very critical critics for this movie. I think the movie is fine on its own, but it could have been so much better. The message of girl empowerment is there, but the execution falls flat on its face. Characters were underutilized, and the ones that got the most focus were unlikable with the exception of a few short scenes. Unfortunately, all the changes I suggested would have been too much for a single movie, and instead would work better as a miniseries instead. And that is one of the most common criticisms I see even in the more positive reviews. The characters needed more time to be fleshed out and for their storylines to get the right amount of attention while also delivering the message of female empowerment in a positive way. What we got was okay, and I hope that those who see it will see the good intentions of the story and maybe be inspired to either make a better story with the same themes or improve their own lives by being a caring person to those around them. For the latter, I suggest going on a Twitter diet as a first good step. Anyway, that's all I got to say about the film. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one. Good night!